The deck I would play for this tournament is like a mono green devotion deck, probably splashing Xenagos right now. I think Xenagos is just one of the most powerful cards in the format, and I've won a lot of money with it in the past year, so I'm biased.
Humble brag. I think I would play something along the lines of like green-red monsters with all the ramp cards and the new red Planeswalker, the new Sarkhan Ball, and Nessa, and like just try to get those out on like turn 3 as much as possible.
Do you think like Sarkhan's just a direct replacement for Stormbreath Dragon?
Yeah, I think it's actually like just a really good port. I mean, you get to attack the turn it comes into play, and then like it's hard to remove in this format and stuff. So like your guys are just bigger than theirs are quickly. You can play Sylvan Caryatid and Courser and stuff too. So like the deck just ports over from like this standard format already.
It definitely feels like whoever's on like the play in the green mirrors, if you can just like Sarkhan kill their Courser, you're so far ahead it doesn't even matter.
Yeah, like I mean, yeah, I don't see anybody coming back from that most of the time, just because like you don't have a recovery card. So yeah.
My pick is Temur Charm. I think it's really interesting. Like, I think you can do a lot of different things with the Rug deck right now. It hasn't been really explored. You can try to like port monsters, or you can try to build like a flash deck. And regardless of what you do, as soon as you get ahead on the board, like Temur Charm does everything. It like makes your Polycarnos eat theirs. It keeps you ahead, counters Wrath of God, and it can also just like bust through Elspeth. So it seems really powerful to me.
I think if I had to play a charm right now, it'd be the Sultai Charm, the bug one. It's kind of like the kind of card I like. It's more of a controlling card. You know, it's a removal spell, a naturalize, and it gets you like card advantage, which is generally what I'm going to be wanting to do. Not to mention the add effect that it lets you discard a card in your black decks, and I think Delve's actually going to be a lot better than people expect it to in this format. All the cards look grossly overcosted, but their effects are so powerful, and the fact that you can probably do most of them on turn 4 is going to be like insane with the new fetch lands and stuff.
So what do you think like the kind of deck that Sultai Charm would fit into?
I think it would fit into like, do you remember the bug decks at the Pro Tour that had like Prognostic Sphinx, like Drown in Sorrows, stuff like that? I think it's going to fit into that. Like the green might be a pretty light splash. You might be seeing more like blue-black control, like Jace's Ingenuity, the new 4-mana Jace, Jace the Guild Pact, and stuff just to fuel their own Delve cards, and then like. Because, with not having Sphinx Revelation, you're going to have to find something to refill your grip a lot, because this format is going to be more about one-for-oneing with, like, no real Wrath of God, so
you think it'll be, like, kind of like a Splash Kiora, Splash Charm kind of blue-black control deck?
Yeah, that's actually, like, a really good idea, Splash Kiora. I wasn't even thinking about that. That's, like, really good, actually. Playing the extra lands and getting ahead is going to be pretty good, and then you get some card advantage out of it, too, so. Yeah.
So like I said previously, I think like a big draw to Temur Charm is like getting ahead on the board and then being able to both like control what your opponent's doing on the board and be able to just like close out the game with a mana leak ability. So I think with Savage Knuckleblade, you probably want to take it less in like a monster's direction and more so with like maybe trying to include like Prophet of Corpus or like Court of Calling or this more like instant speed flash deck, which Temur Charm like definitely supports really well. And the fact that it's like so many different abilities, like even if you get caught on like your end step or whatever, you can bounce it to your hand and then replay it with haste. So it like puts a lot of pressure on your opponent and gives you a lot of flexibility.
So you think it should be like more of like a tempo-ish flash kind of deck?
Right.
Would you play the new 6/6 for 5 in it that makes it's uncounterable?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
like I think like the more that you have your opponent guessing, like the fairies factor or whatever.
Right.
It gives you like a huge edge.
Yeah, because like that's exactly how I'd build it. I'd build it with like the charm, the flash creatures, the uncounterable spells, and play it like way more tempo-y with like maybe some bounce spells and some spot removal, and just like again, just like always keep your opponent guessing. And it's like make them figure it out and stuff. Not to mention the card protects itself, so like in whatever shell you put it in, it's going to give you extra value in the long game and the short. I mean, a 4/4 on turn 3, and then a 4/4 with like protection on turn like 7 that has haste is absurd.
Like obviously just like. You're not utilizing its abilities in like a tap out strategy, and like a generic 4/4 is just not good these days.
Yeah, I mean like there's removal spells that kill it, but in the right kind of decks, like as you said, like I think the tempo deck is probably the best idea so far for it.
So I agree with Tannon what he said previously about like the green-red monster strategy, but I think like another avenue where Sarkhan could be really powerful is like kind of like the traditional mono-red devotion decks that you see now. It might not necessarily like replace Stormbreath Dragon, but it can complement it, and also in some awkward way give you like a diversified board position, Mizzium Mortars, while building Devotion, making your Nykthos more powerful, so you can like set up like a really powerful turn 6.
Yeah, so I don't really think it's like a mono red card per se, like the mono red like 1-drop, 1-drop, 2-drop deck, like the Tom Ross strategies. I can see maybe like topping your curve out and being a 1 of, but generally you don't want to like get to 5 lands in those decks. Definitely. So yeah, I think the ramp strategies are going to be the best strategies first, and then I could even see it possibly being a win condition in like a control deck, like a 1 of Sarkhan is like just a way to get on the board and immediately start pressuring their life total.
So I think like something that's going to be really more appreciated going on is like the Soul. Specifically, I think Soul of Theros is like the most powerful one. Right now, it doesn't really look like, with Supreme Verdict moving out and there's not like a clear like Wrath of God that people actually want to play, I think creature combat's going to be way more important. And if you played in 15 limited, you understand that you just don't win creature combat if your opponent has Soul of Theros in play.
For me, I think Jace the Living Guild Pact is going to like actually start to make an impact on the format. You're actually going to see it in decks. The fact that Delve is actually a like viable strategy, these cards are all actually like really underrated. Being able to like fuel your graveyard every turn while getting card quality is big. Not to mention the fact that it protects itself slightly with its -3 ability of bouncing a permanent,
right.
And then it can fit into practically like any of the decks like Bug, Rug, any of those kind of things. Along with like fetch lands, it's going to make your Delve spells like happen very, very quickly. Like as soon as like the next turn after playing Jace. So, and we don't really have like a control deck yet, like a specific one, and we don't have a set format for you to like attack, but it gives you card quality every
right.
turn. It doesn't necessarily give you quantity, but I mean you get to pick which card and choose out of the top of your deck. Plus you're going to be like fueling it with some of the draw spells with Delve. So you're going to burn through your deck very quickly by like casting Delve spells and feeding your next ones. So like I think that card's actually just going to shoot up in value.
I mean, I definitely think like people underappreciate that like just because a card isn't in your hand doesn't mean
right.
that you haven't gained some sort of advantage.
Yeah, I mean we're starting to see it a little more in this format. Players who didn't play with it the first time around, they're seeing Scry. Like how good is it when you know the top card of your deck and they don't?
Right.
It's like miracling a spell. People love that kind of effect. And not to mention, it was with Scry lands, fetch lands, and Jace. Your card quality through the span of a game could just be so much further ahead than your opponents that like it doesn't even matter if you play as well as they do half the time. Your cards are just all better.
I would say like a 2. There's nothing inherently wrong with the format as a whole. It's just you can walk around the top tables today and you'll see the same decks that were at the Pro Tour a year ago. There just hasn't been the diversity that a standard format needs for people to be happy about it and enjoy playing week to week.
I'm going to say close to a 0. I will be happy when I don't have to worry about turn 1 Swamp Thoughtseize, turn 2 Pack-a-Rat anymore, and just like you're just lost because they discard a card every turn for this game.
Sure.
But I will say that I am very, very sad about one specific thing leaving the format. I'm going to miss this card quite a bit.
Because there's nothing more fun than your opponent having 15 lands and no cards in hand and them top decking Sphinx's Revelation, right?
How is that not fun? Everybody likes
guess.
miracles. Everyone likes miracles. Come on.